Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th of May. I've been away for a week, which was lovely, but it's nice to be back at the helm. I'm delighted to have a new member of the team this evening, Heather HJ Reid, who will tell us all about her writing. And we're here talking about the therapy of writing. And some of you who've seen this before will know one thing I do that I find very therapeutic, which we will come back to. But we're going to go with our regular Beth, BB Elsin, to introduce herself and tell us what she finds therapeutic about writing.
Hi, I'm BB Elsin. I'm the author of Heroes and Traitors, which is a historical fantasy with lots of political intrigue in it. And what I find therapeutic about writing is the friendship of imaginary characters.
Great, thank you. And you write short stories and poetry as well.
I
So
do,
come
yes.
back, come back to that. Sarah, SJ Banham, good evening. Also a regular.
Hi. Yeah, becoming a regular, yeah.
Regular, fantastic.
Um, yeah, I write fiction and non-fiction, as you know. The most recent has been a romance slash dark romance because it's romance, but it's passionate romance actually, but it's teetering just on the edge of dark romance as well. And what do I find stressful? Just about everything at the moment. Overwhelm. I get I don't normally get overwhelmed that quickly, but just lately this year has been incredibly overwhelming in a lot of ways. We're halfway through the year almost, and I can't actually recall a week where I've not been overwhelmed. Lack of fun doesn't help, does it? And I've written a few things down here so I can focus on those.
Yeah.
Um,
Fun as in FUN or funds as in money? Fun,
Many funds,
fun.
funding, yeah,
Uh,
income,
right.
and stuff outside of my control because I think a lot of writers can be a little bit control freakish. We're mostly in control of just about everything we're doing, and when there's stuff that isn't in our control that we're just relying on other people to do, or things that we're not okay with yet, and we need to work on it. That really, oh wow, yeah, that gets to me too because
Yeah,
you don't know which way to go. You don't know where your base point is because you don't know it yet.
sure.
So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I was saying to Tim earlier on because we had our first self pub that side South Pub Fest all day in person festival. Beth was there a month ago. Oh, no, not quite a month ago. No, almost a month ago, 26th of April, which had such a fantastic day. And in theory, South Pub Fest has a committee of four. His Dave Sivers, Donna Morfitt, Denise Beddoes, and myself. And but I said to Tim knows over the last since I came up with the idea last October that I am a control freak, and that although I have a committee of four people, I am the committee. So they are my sounding boards. We have a messenger group, and every now and then I'll go, well, what do you think of this? And they say what they think of it, and I go and do whatever I want to do. Anyway, with their advice. And so yes, it's been my baby for the last few months, which has been quite stressful. I have been a bit of at times, a bit of a moody cow. Um, but I say I've been a swan. So on this part that you can see on Zoom is calm. I'm absolutely fine now, especially having been away for a week. Um, and whereas leading up to the 26th of April, the swan-like kicking was just I'd wake up thinking about the festival, I'd go to bed thinking about the festival, and my waking hours were thinking about the festival because it was a lot of work. But now it's done already, and October the panel's full. Got 20 authors coming here in October, and so it's all great. So I don't need stress now. So yes, I totally get it, Sarah, that about us being a control freak. And I think if you're self-published, there is that kind of balance that you can do whatever you like, which is pleasurable as well as you've got the responsibility.
Funny thing sometimes.
Yes, yes, exactly. Especially if it is your day job and it's
Mm.
your sole responsibility to get all the money in, to pay the bills and so on, as it is mine. I mean, luckily, Tim has a good job, but yeah, tricky. Heather, Lovely to see you. And what's the name
Thank
of
you.
it? We can just see your dog's hair.
I know he's going to sit here until he gets bored.
Oh,
He's staring at the television,
oh, there we go.
watching you all at the moment.
Oh, bless.
And he's getting on a bit, so he wants to be part of things. He's nearly 14 now, so
Okay. Oh, bless. And what's his name?
his name's Rafa.
Rafa.
As
Rafa,
Nadal.
As in the
after Rafa Nadal. Yes,
Oh, how funny.
yes.
That was the only
He was born in the heyday when Nadal won Wimbledon. So
fantastic.
yeah.
Oh, bless. Oh, well, I hope he enjoys our conversation. So lovely to see you, have you here, and thank you to Ali Bacon for recommending us to you and you to us. And hopefully this is the first of many participations.
I hope so.
Do tell us, you were writing a genre and you've switched genres.
I switched. I started writing and first got published as a fantasy author.
Okay.
Writing contemporary fantasy, not swords and sandals and dragons. I'm not that kind of fantasy writer. And it began as a therapeutic exercise when I was in quite a bad marriage and getting very frustrated. I discovered the art of creating characters that are your worst enemies in real life and being able to do awful things to them and getting away with it. It was absolutely wonderful, and it made me feel a lot better. So this was back in 2008 to 2010, so quite a while ago now, and they're still languishing on the back shelf of a publisher's, office somewhere. Don't know where.
They didn't get published.
They did get published, yes,
Okay.
yes. They weren't terribly popular, but they did get published.
Oh.
And off goes the dog.
Okay.
And I then realised that actually I was rather fond of writing crime.
Right.
So I went on to start writing crime thrillers. And I'm on the 5th of a series now, the D.I. Crow series, which is a set of crime novels all set in Bristol. And it's kind of Bristol noir, I guess. It's like Scottish noir, but, a bit more West Country. So people say ooh and eat mangel wurzels while they're running around shooting people and doing the various things. But again, I thought, while I was working, I had some pretty awful bosses. And there's nothing more therapeutic than taking one of these awful bosses and making them the villain in one of your novels. And their comeuppance is like in the palm of your hand. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. Well, I used to live next to a little man who ran the local shop, and he didn't like women and he didn't like customers. So, and I dared to take back a packet of biscuits, and I was his next door neighbour, to take back a packet of biscuits that was a month out of date because he didn't rotate his stock properly, and he went ballistic, and so I stopped going in. One point.
Well, I hope you put him in a book.
Absolutely. He's been in a lot of things. If I ever needed to kill off a shopkeeper, even if I didn't actually kill them off, if the shopkeeper and I dreamt of killing them off, then yes, that would be, they would all be the same shopkeeper.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think I've got a fridge magnet, which I think my favourite one, and it says, don't bother me, I live in my own world, but it's fine, everybody knows me there.
Yeah.
So, and I think that should be the writer's mantra, because that's what we do. We sort of we find our relaxation and our relief from stress by just opening a blank page and writing something and immediately transporting ourselves somewhere else.
So, Heather, has anybody read your books or your writing? Not necessarily books, but writing, and thought, oh, she's writing about me? Or do you pick, because obviously you change the names, I'm guessing, do you pick things from different people, or do you have quite rounded characters who are exactly as they are in real life and then kill them off?
Some of them I think are exactly as they are in real life, and the the latest book, I'm working on the 5th one now, but the 4th one, I was urged to write it. I sort of floated the idea with some friends of mine, because I was a child of forced adoption.
Okay.
And I've got a huge number of brothers and sisters I've never met,
Wow.
or have met when I was much older, and one brother that we're all still looking for,
Wow.
who is now in his 50s. And it's always been something that people have said, you really have got to write your story, because it's a very long, complicated, fascinating, and quite upsetting story. And I've never been able to, because it's about me.
Right.
But I then had the idea, I know, I'll turn it into a crime novel. So all the people who were involved, you know, over the 30 or 40-year period, I'll put them all into this crime novel and make a thriller out of it. And it worked perfectly. And once I'd written it, I felt so much better. And I did actually say to all the people who were in it, this is why I'm writing it. This is the basis of the story, and I'm writing it about us. And they all thought that it was a really great idea, and nobody so far has complained. The only complaint I got was that the first draft had about 15 too many characters in it.
Okay.
And they said, if somebody who doesn't know the story reads this, they're going to be completely lost, because you've got so many brothers and sisters and relatives and aunts and uncles, everyone's going to get confused.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I had to cut a few people out.
Right. Could you put them in another book, or maybe like that?
Thinking about it, but I think they're people that didn't have an awful lot to do with it. They were just kind of background characters.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it was a great therapy doing that, and it was much better than writing it as a very boring non-fiction misfest. You know, it was much better than that.
Yeah. There was a Kate Atkinson. I went to college. There was a college course, a local college, where they covered. It was once a fortnight, and they covered the first 3 of Kate Atkinson's books, and the 3rd one was a collection of short stories, which I love. I love short stories because my day job is editing, so I tend not to read books for pleasure because it's too busman's holiday. But I love reading short stories. And so the third book was a collection of short stories, and the first one was called the Behind the Scenes at the Museum, and that was a young female character we find out about her and her family, her maternal line, through different chapters. So almost from memory, almost every chapter was a different, going back and then back and forth through time along her maternal line. And I ended up, because I was doing it for college, I ended up drawing a family tree so that I could keep track of who everybody was. So whether that could have been something that you could have included, at least if somebody was mentioned, even if they don't feature, that you could have a family tree.
I will certainly be putting family trees into my sequel, because when I read fantasy, I mean, you know, okay, the world's different, people have got odd names, etc., and I just kind of take it for granted and get on with it. But a lot of readers of fantasy do like the map, the list of the families and so on. So yeah, and I am the queen of lots of characters, because although I probably will have less in the sequel, I just like exploring different points of view, and so and also I feel, well, if I don't have lots of point of view, then the reader is not going to be in that kind of magic position of knowing what the hero and heroine don't know.
Sure. Yes. Tim, husband, read, he loves sci-fi, and he read Neil Asher's latest book came out while we were on holiday, so he downloaded it and read it on his iPad. And there was one bit in it where he could see what was coming. And I said, but it was very frustrating because all the other characters weren't seeing, I know we've gone off track a bit, but weren't seeing what he was seeing as a reader. But I know that some readers love, especially with a mystery, some readers love to find out something before the characters or get something before the characters do. But he said it was so obvious. And then everybody else who was supposed to be smart people, it's science fiction, aren't seeing that this person is not who they seem, and so he got a little bit frustrated with that. Beth, do you write? Tell us about your mindfulness, your coffee and commute.
Right.
You wrote that very much with mindfulness in
talking
mind.
about writing as therapy, I like to encourage reading as therapy because it's an escape. And 2026 is the UK year of reading. A lot of the activity is getting children involved in reading, but it's for adults as well. And I just remember, that the world of full-time work and commuting and just being exhausted. And I thought, well, how could people in that situation reinvigorate themselves with some short pieces? And so Coffee and Commute is an anthology of pieces of different lengths. So as short as a haiku. So, if you just literally got a couple of minutes, you can look at a haiku. If you've got a lunch break, maybe then you want a short story. But the idea is that it's structured with themes and with different lengths, so that people can dip in and out of it. And there's a few little questions to prompt some reflection about the reading. And yeah, hopefully people will enjoy just being able to switch off, even if it's only for 2 minutes.
And do you write things that you know you're never going to publish, but you just need to get it out? Because I know there's a lot. It makes me smile when you go to a festival and somebody will not come up to me. Nobody's ever come up to me and said it, but with the top authors at the literary festivals, they go, oh, "I've read everything you've ever written," and they go, "No, nobody has ever read everything I've ever written. Nobody will read everything I've ever written, because there's a lot that I don't want to share with anybody. It's just for me." And that will never see light of day. Do you have things that you think, actually, I just need to get this out because it's in my mind. It's not going to go anywhere, may or may not go anywhere, but I just like the idea of putting it down on paper and getting it out.
I've started things full of enthusiasm and then thought, no, it's not going to work.
Right.
And just, sometimes I do leave things because I think, well, maybe the inspiration will come later. But I don't, I've never been a diary person, obviously a diary in the sense of knowing when I'm supposed to be where.
Yes,
but
exactly.
Reflecting is something that gets processed in the subconscious rather than the conscious.
And Heather, you've got a psychology background. Because of your background, do you think you've come to writing with a different? It's difficult for me to think that, because you're not coming to writing from a non-psychological background, but whether you think it helped you, or could it hinder you in any way, the fact that you've got that background and that you're now coming to writing? I see it as a bonus. The fact that you're already in the head.
It's definitely not a hindrance. And I think what started me off seriously writing, I've been writing since I was a child, as a lot of us have been. So it was always a toss-up of whether I would be a writer or a psychologist. And I got paid being a psychologist, which made a big difference. But I have kept on writing all the way along. So they've been two things that one has not led to the other. That it's like parallel
Right.
joys, if you like, because I've really enjoyed both pathways.
Mm.
And when I started writing seriously and thought maybe I could get published doing this stuff, my main aim was to explore the mental life of the characters that I was creating, and to get inside their heads. And by doing that, I was able to better understand the real people that were around me, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So the three fantasy novels that I wrote, strangely enough, it was the third novel in the trilogy that the publisher decided should be published first.
Okay.
Because I wrote two third-person novels, and the more I wrote, the more I kind of started to relate to who was originally the villain in these fantasy novels.
Yeah.
And I thought, I really want to know why this person is like they are. And up until then, he'd had a black hat on and the hero had had a white hat on, and it had all been very conventional. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do a first-person book in the voice of this guy and explore his psychology in a huge amount of depth. And I just got completely lost in it and ended up having so much sympathy for him, because he'd had such a horrible life, and he was sort of telling me mentally how awful his life had been and why he'd done this and why he'd done that and why he was such a horrible person and how he didn't really want to be. He wanted to be somebody else. And the publisher read it and he thought, this is the first book.
Wow.
And immediately grabbed it and said, okay, we're publishing this one, and never mind the other two. We'll do the other two later if you like.
Okay.
And that kind of got me started. So my crime novels, again, I'm in first person, seeing everything through the eyes of somebody who's had a severe brain injury and recovered, and that was very therapeutic for me as well, because I'm fascinated by the ability of the brain to work around itself and to recover from really some quite serious damage. And so I have a policeman who's been shot in the head, has lost part of his brain, but who has completely recovered because his brain has rewired itself, and he's suffering from PTSD, but in terms of his mental capacity, he's working fine. And that was just as fascinating to me to get into that side of it too.
Well, the thing with the book, that the third book, the fact that it resonated, it's sort of almost, I wouldn't say it meant more to you, but it resonated the most with you, then translated to resonating the most with the publisher, and one would hope resonated most then to the reader. Sarah, you write non-fiction for writers. Are you very much aware when you're writing your non-fiction about helping other writers and getting across how therapeutic writing can be?
I do. There are sections in all my books on writing about that. I'm very interested in the well-being of writers, because we go through a lot, don't we? We go through all of the characters. We have to create them from the ground up using their brains, as Hez just said. So we have to understand all of their psyches, all of their motives, and in all of that, we also have to go through all of their emotions. So I don't know if other people are like this as well, or this is just a me thing, but it's exhausting. At the end of writing something really deep, or something that's, the one that I've just finished, my original baddie, as Heather's just said, my original baddie was going to be, sorry, my original goodie was going to be my baddie. But when I started writing him, I thought, no, you don't deserve that. It's going to make you the baddie. So that sort of really twisted my whole storyline around. And the guy that was the baddie ended up being a really yummy, very, very nice guy. Least said about that, the better right now. And but you know, coming away from the storyline and the characters, you know, you're thinking, wow, today I've gone through all of his angst, all of her happiness, all of such and such is, you know, whatever, and you get really involved in it, don't you? So a lot of that has to come out somewhere. So I, you know, in my books, in my writing books, I have to. Well, I don't have to. I try to get over to new writers that these things are going to happen. You are going to feel things. You are going to have to process that and deal with it. I mean, nobody knows what storylines I'm just going to come up with. Mm-hmm. So the plot could be horrendous, couldn't it? It could be really traumatic. And to get I suppose, the thrill over to the reader, you've got to kind of live some of that trauma, I guess. So you've got to come out of it the other side, so that you can continue writing for them. But you've also got to process all of that. So well-being, I think, is a major part of what we do.
Because the thing is, the more we feel it, the more authentic the writing is going to be.
Yeah.
You know, you say a writer's bored of something they're writing, then it's going to come across. And if people have characters who are bored, I say, no, don't have characters who are bored. Yeah, you can be bored for a minute and then something happen. But it is really emotional. And I think that is reflected in our writing. If we can feel it, then we can. I mean, it may not be easy to put down on paper, but as you say, it's going to be more authentic. Well, it's going to be,
well, the intention
you're living
to be more authentic.
Yes, living and feeling it. So Sarah,
the one that I've I was just going to say, the one that I've just written, the main character, the heroine, she's just lost her husband, and obviously my husband is still very much around, but he went through something really nasty not that long ago. Well, we've literally just come out of it the other side of at the end of last week. So I was able to use a little bit of what we've been going through for her. And that kind of exhaustion, trying to get that over to the reader, that, you know, the mindset, because actually, whether it's a good idea or not, my book opens just after the funeral, so potentially you could read that and go, God, this is really depressing. But it isn't. It's her kind of, everything's shut down, and she's just literally picking up the pieces of her mind to try and rebuild her life. So that's, you know, having to kind of feel what we've been going through and then putting that down in words, so that hopefully the reader can maybe experience a tiny bit of that, but without having it upset them.
Sure.
It was, I would say it was between probably between heartbreak and traumatic to write the first part of that. But that's when I discovered that the baddie was actually the goodie. Right. So I learned a lot in the first. I mean, that was the longest book I've ever written in the shortest amount of time. It was 106,000 words in 59 days. Wow. And that's the third draft as well. So from starting the actual book, that was 29 days, and the second draft, and then the third draft. So I've never written a book that quick, but that's hyper focus for you. And that's another part of the therapy of writing, because if you're coping with something outside of writing and you need a focus, that's kind of what I did. I threw myself into work and didn't come out of it until it was finished. So, I mean, it's probably taken my brain out and wrung it dry, and there's not much left, which is why I'm feeling overwhelmed. But stress is just there.
Yeah. Do you try to, we'll go Sarah, Heather, Beth, do you try to have happy endings in your stories? Do they have happy endings? Do you think, as a writer to a reader, you'd want a reader to feel uplifted at the end?
The current one, which is not out, I mean, it might be this year, it might be next year, I don't know, but the current one, it's a happy for now. It's not a happy ever after. However, there will be a sequel, and potentially it will be in that one. However, I wrote a bittersweet love story about 2021, or I published it 2021, and that was a happy ever after. That was actually a novella, and it was something I'd written years ago and just elaborated on it, and got to the stage where I thought, if I don't finish this, it's never going to get finished. So yeah, I went to Swanwick and used that as a just the 5 days, and thought I won't go on many of the courses. I'll just sit in my room and focus. Is exactly what I did, and finished it. But yeah, it was a happy ever after. But it lent that to the story. It needed that for the story. Whereas this current one, it's more of a happy for now. Let's focus on the rest later. We've gone through a lot.
Yeah, because I think sometimes as a writer, we need, yes, it's great if we're writing crime stories and we're killing people off, because it is very therapeutic. But even if you don't write romances, I think it's nice. We need some nice writing, to whether it's a short story or a poem or a romance novella. I think it's nice to have, it uplifts us as writers if we can write about something joyful.
I have to confess that I have a bit of a reputation in my writing groups for too much social realism. So Marlowe Writers Society were asked to produce some pieces for performance at the museum 2 years ago, I think, and the theme was celebration. And so the guy who was the link between us said to me, "Now, Beth, this is celebration. This is cheerful, okay?" And I mean, I rose to the challenge, I think, but he did like what I produced. But it was interesting, he clearly had in mind that my preferred milieu, if you like, was the kind of, life's a bitch sort of scenario.
Yeah. Because I think readers read different genres for different kinds of escapism. They'll read romance because they want to believe that there is a happy ever after, and then they read crime and the darker stuff to think actually their life's not so bad.
I think also people read crime because they want to believe that there is some justice. Because in crime novels, generally speaking, not every single crime novel, but most crime novels, the baddie is found out and the baddie is punished. And of course, in real life, that's often not the case.
And they're found out and justice is served in 200 or 300 pages, or an hour if it's on TV. So Heather, you have written 2 genres. Do they kind of appeal to you in different ways? Do you ever alternate, or have you kind of shelved the fantasy for now and moved on to crime?
No, I've got a plan, for a long-term plan for a very large, multi-volume epic that will get written one day.
Right.
Hopefully. I mean, I've got 2 novels going on at the moment, with the 2 series that I'm working on. So I've got another Crow book coming along, and I've got a second in the Reuben Quinn series, which is about a forensic psychiatrist and what he gets up to in his spare time, investigating things he shouldn't be investigating. But no, I mean, beyond that, there is a plan for a 600,000 word epic fantasy.
Wow. connected to something you've written already, or something completely new?
Something completely new.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Oh, how fantastic! And
Yeah.
what do you do, Heather, when you're say you're that's not writing, but you find therapeutic? Do you, if you've had a day at your computer and your brain is fried, is there something you like to do when it isn't writing that you find therapeutic?
Yeah. 3 years ago, I moved from a flat in the centre of Bristol, where I'd been for 12 years, to a house with a garden. And if I'm not at my computer, I'm telling my friends, sorry, I'm far too busy to do anything tonight because I'm in the garden planting roses or potatoes or
Oh, lovely.
whatever it is. So I've got a little potting shed and a little greenhouse. And if I'm not at the computer, that's where you'll find me.
Right. And does your brain still keep going? You think, oh, actually, in this scene, I could do this, or are you totally
Absolutely.
focused?
It never
Right.
stops. It never
No.
stops. I think I dream about what's going to happen to my characters as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a constant thing.
Right. A lot of people do. I know writers who've stopped mid-sentence, and then they've purposely left it so they can just pick up and carry on. And with the idea is that their brain will carry on working while they're
Oh,
sleeping.
it does. I get to a point where I really come to a shuddering halt. It's like a train that somebody's put the brakes on, and I might be at the end of a sentence or halfway through a sentence, and I really, really don't know what is going to happen in the next 30 seconds. So I just leave it there and I go away and I plant a tomato or something or have a nap and come back and the brain's actually sorted it and say, yeah, that's what's going to happen next.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
When it works.
When it works.
Yeah. Sarah, what do you do when you're not writing? Something that
I've made notes and I've circled them so I can stay on point.
Okay, that's all right. No, we like going off. I am a going off at tangents person, so absolutely fine.
I never come back.
That's true. I forget what tangent we weren't on when we went off. So yes, that's okay.
Right. I've got written down nature, the gym, diary writing, meditation, and dressmaking. So crafting, really.
Oh, how lovely.
So I read years and years and years ago that obviously writing is a creative pursuit. However, if you are a creative person, which I am, then to get away from I mean, you can do it 24 hours, but it's going to kill you, isn't it? So to get away from that creative pursuit to do another creative pursuit. So I've always been creative in whatever way you want to throw at me. I'll probably say, yes, I've done that. So whether it's making earrings, making clothing, making cards, just generally a bit of painting, all kinds of creative things. But dressmaking I really enjoy because there's obviously a product at the end of that. But the great thing about it is that when my daughter left home about 4 years ago now, I returned to doing sewing and dressmaking and stuff. Got a new machine, in fact, because I'd used to do it years and years and years ago when she was little, and I used to make all her clothes, my clothes, mum's clothes, all her furnishings. So yeah, I used to do all of that. But then over the years, things happen and you stop, don't you? So I got another. Well, actually, I had a machine and broke it because I was using it too frequently. So I got a new machine, which was very much more up to the task, and started making clothes again. And it was just wonderful to just still be creative, still make things, but make things I was going to wear. Because as you can probably tell, I'm not a normal kind of person. I like colour. I like to express myself through colour. I find comfort in colour. It's not a what's the word? It's not an extrovert thing. I enjoy colour and it makes me feel calm. It makes me feel confident and happy. So that's kind of colour is my thing. And but I've found that there was a massive correlation, I suppose, with writing and painting and dressmaking. With like editing, like if you're in writing and you don't like something, you'll go back and you'll change that. You can do that in writing, you can do that in dressmaking. So there are a lot of similarities all the way through that I hadn't ever picked up until this cycle of dressmaking. So that's quite cool. Meditation is something I probably do daily, although mostly I'll start meditating and then I'll end up napping. But I'm that person that needs a nap in the day anyway. I've been like that since I was in my 20s. But it powers me through the afternoon, so it's all good. Nature, like today, I've been fairly overwhelmed and stressed the last few days. So today, we live fairly close to the beach. So I was able to just wander down to the beach, and twice today, in fact, that's how stressed I've been. And it's like 10 minutes there and back. It's just, sometimes you just need to, hear the waves, don't you?
Yeah.
Exercise is really important to me as well. So we go to the gym about 4 or 5 times a week, and that's really helpful. I've got a treadmill here as well, so if I need to, I can go on that as well. But yeah, exercise is hugely important to me. And the diary writing. I know Beth, you said that you weren't into diaries. I think I've been that person since my teenage years. I've got a heap of diaries. When we moved here, which was 13 years ago, we found, well, all the diaries that I'd had, I brought with me, and we went through the garage a couple of years ago, and there's about 6 diaries throughout my life just sitting there. And I look back, and some of them were in my 30s, and it was just really nice because I remembered everything that I'd written down. I looked back and thought, oh yeah, I remember exactly that day, and I'd write my dreams down because I tend to remember my dreams. And there were some diaries from my teenage years and dreams that I'd remembered and written down. I thought, oh, I remember that dream. It's like watching a movie. You think, wow, I remember that. So yeah, diary writing is quite important to me too.
Well, I'm one of these who will buy a diary or ahead of, I was going to say on January the 1st, ahead of time, with the intention of writing something every day. And I would get to about January the 15th. I think one year was January the 3rd. And then I just thought, no, I've got other things to do. And my life wasn't that interesting. And I never remember my dreams. And so, but I like the idea of you having them over so long, because then you could, what I call fiction fodder, you could then go, well, actually, that would make a really good scene or a good character or how the person is feeling from that.
It's really funny. Looking back at those earlier ones in my 30s, there were actors that I really, really liked and had a dream about them and wrote the dream down. But I don't know if I was worried about people reading my diaries or if I just didn't want to admit them, or just had a code for myself so I could look back and see. But I'd only write their initials or a nickname I'd given them, so only I would know who it was.
Oh, and then you have to remember.
All in code.
You have to remember when you're meditating. Can you get your brain to switch off, or are you meditating? Because I would be like, well, I've just written about this scene, and what about, and because I've tried over the years, I've gone to gyms and I've tried Tai Chi and I've tried just sitting, and I'm not good. For me, my escape is cinema, because once I'm in the seat, it's the only time I sit and do nothing. And I am still analysing. I'm going, if someone opens a drawer and they put something in, but we don't see what it is, that will be at the back of my brain until we come to that scene again and we find out what it is. And it's all fiction fodder. And so I think and to me, it's how, and I'd like to see, some films are so clever. You think, I'd like to see this as a book. How do they make this? I know it's script, but how would they write this as a book? And so it is, I don't switch off, but it is the only time I sit and do nothing. And so it is therapy. Although I think we have a new Star Wars movie coming up, which Tim will want to go and see. So I'll probably go and see something else. Or else I'll sit there with a notebook and my phone and go like this. But it is literally the only time I sit and do nothing. I'm
not great with I have to have a guided meditation. There's a guy I listen to, an Australian guy I listen to frequently, and there's like a 10-minute one, a 15-minute one, a 20-minute one, half hour, an hour, a 3-hour. So if I've got that amount of time, then I'll listen to maybe the half-hour one. And I've been listening to him since the night before I turned 50, so almost 9 years now. And in all of that time, I've I've not listened to anybody else because I can't get along with their voices, their pitch or their accent. I'm very funny with pitch and accent. If there's an audio book that I did a video about it this morning, funny enough, if there's a pitch or an accent that just doesn't suit, oh no, it just won't go in, and all I'm doing is being jarred by that, not listening to the story.
We had
but no, I like his voice, so I listen, and it does help me relax. Yeah.
We had a session recently on audiobooks, and there was one, I can't remember the narrator's name, but there's I think she's Southern Texan maybe, and narrates some of the Patricia Cornwell's books, and it's such a strong accent that I struggle with it, and so I don't even start them, sadly.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
I think if I'm looking for an audio book, I go through the list of narrators before I go through the list of titles.
Do you?
Because I've got a list of narrators that I will listen to, and a list that I definitely won't listen to.
Right.
And I only choose books that have the narrators that I like listening to.
Wow,
it's a good idea.
It's so important, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's immensely important. Yes, it's the wrong narrator, then the book literally doesn't work.
Beth, what do you do when you're what's your therapy when you're not writing?
Well, I do like to get some exercise every day, either going to a gym class or a walk, and sometimes walking football. But I think if you looked at my diary, you thought, oh, this is a woman who lunches, you know. I'm always popping out to see friends, which is nice in a social sense and being connected. But I do sometimes think I should be ring-fencing more time for my writing.
Oh, but that's people watching. You see, unless you go round to them for coffee, and they are your complete circle. But even so, we pick up bits, don't we? Oh yeah, actually, that would make a really good character. Or when you're in your car, and you're waiting for at a crossing, and you see somebody, you think, oh, I like the way he walks, and that will go in. And I do have a terrible memory, but every now and then something will just think, oh yeah, actually there was somebody I remember, or subconsciously I'll go, yes, I'm sure there'll be somebody like this, and use it in there. But I think overall, we are very lucky. We've said this often, very lucky with what we do. And I find, Sarah, because obviously your business is completely in the writing world. Do you find that adds pressure? We said, I don't know whether it's before we started recording or early on, that you've been quite stressed about your business, and I think there's more pressure because pretty much my sole income is writing related. It's editing. Whether that puts an extra pressure on you, whether you think I don't know, not saying you've ever taken work on just for the money, but whether there is an added pressure because it is your job, your career.
Yeah, I have actually taken work on in the past that I really didn't want to, but you learn very quickly that that's more of a problem than the actual job itself. And at that particular I'm thinking of, actually, it was a copywriting gig years ago, probably about, well, it's my business's 15th year this year.
Yeah, so we're both very established, so
yeah.
I know
that was probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was kind of handed a copywriting gig from another established writer who didn't want it anymore. And I learned quite quickly why. But he was doing me a favour, because I was going through a very dry spell, and it's all feast and famine, isn't it, with freelancing? And anyway, so he handed over the job to me, and I did it. And it was an agency, a copywriting agency, and I was working with them for maybe about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. And after about the first or second month, I thought, you know what, this is for the amount of effort and the amount of work I'm having to do, for the amount of money I'm getting back, I would have to work something like 4 hours to get a national minimum wage.
Oh, that's crazy.
That was ridiculous. And not to be too big-headed, but when you're skilled in writing, you are a skilled worker, and you probably should be getting a hell of a lot more than that. So I said to the agency, this will be my last blah, blah, blah. And they came back so rudely, so unprofessionally, and they said, well, that wasn't very professional of you, was it? I expect another month. Founded. Couldn't believe it. So I did another month, gave it all the love I could, which was 0. And that was that. And they had to, that was in the summer. In the December, they had the cheek to give me a Christmas card. Oh, we miss you so much. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But you learn, don't you?
You do.
Yeah. No, I've had jobs that I didn't like, but as the years have gone on, I've learned that it's not the job necessarily that you're taking on. It's whether you're gelling with the client. And if you gel with the client, you'll pretty much do anything they ask, because they're fantastic people to be around.
Yeah, really.
So my more recent years ones, which have been editing or proofreading or ghostwriting, they've been pretty good, because we've got along so well, and they've come back for more, which you know that you're getting along with somebody, and it's worked out really nicely. Even the courses that I do, some of the people have come back, because after lockdown, I've turned all of my courses, which were all in person, to online ones. So that was a little tricky. And that was when the coaching began as well. So all of those, the people that had met me in real life, they wanted online ones as well. So that was a really nice one, because they knew I would create a new course and they'd likely be interested in it. So word of mouth work helps as well, of course. But it's
and where do you host those?
The courses are literally wherever and whenever people want them, because it's I've designed them to, if they're in real life, in person, not in real life. I keep getting that wrong. It's like, instead of saying a contactless credit card, I've said before, do you want me to do a topless one? They've gone, no. I've designed them to be, I can pick them up and take them wherever, or if they want them online, they can be. So as versatile and as flexible as possible. But I can't remember the question now. That's kind of what I was saying earlier, wasn't it? Go off on a tangent and you can't remember where you went.
That's a very good question. I think we were talking about, well, for us it was freelancing, and then the pressures of it being a business, and doing things for the yes, I've learned over the last few years that you still try to put your heart and soul into something, but it's a bit like writing something you don't really want to write. It will show that you're struggling with it, or you get to a saggy middle and you have to sort of persevere. I think it's
for me, it's taking on too many things and not allowing my brain to just breathe for a moment. I have done, and this is going to go out on YouTube as well, isn't it? So it'll be public, but I've done what you did, and you already know because I've emailed you about it. I'm doing a writing festival towards the end of the year. It's something I wanted to do for a few years, but only the last couple of years that I've got the details together and actually thought about it. But I've got a venue and I've got a date, so I've got a list of people, so it's just a matter of putting it all together. However, before that, I've got like a million events to either attend or ones I'm attending or organising. 2 books, one that I've got to develop, that I wrote in January, the other one that I just said to you a little while ago, that's got to be edited. And I've just taken on another very large gig as well, plus proofreading for publishers. There's only one me, but my brain goes, no, I can do it.
Yes.
And there's not a correlation between my brain saying I can do it and the real timeline that we're all living in. It's ADHD on speed, or an acid, as my daughter says to me. So it's undiagnosed, but it's there. So it's one of those crazy things that my brain wants to have all of this fun. I want to do all the editing. I want to do all the writing. I want to do it all because it's so much fun. But there's only so much fun that you can process in one go.
Well, I was going through the same thing last year, where I'd family, mum died, aunt died, uncle wanted to move, diagnosed with dementia, and so on and so forth. So we had so much going on, and the last thing that I got done was my writing. Everything else, I was dealing with everything else, and literally working from deadline to deadline to deadline. And that was all my focus. Right, what's my next deadline? Okay, that's done. What's my next deadline? That's done. And you can only live that way for a certain amount of time.
Not sustainable. No.
And luckily now my uncle he's got his own apartment in a retirement complex. And so there's a manageress who just keeps an eye on him. And they're all lovely, and he's absolutely fine. And so the pressure's off a bit for that. Still my responsibility, but the pressure's off. And so I then decided last October, and some of you have heard this before, I think you two have heard this before, where I would semi-retire and only take certain key, so contemporary crime, contemporary women's fiction, and books about writing. There's editing projects. And then I came up with within a week, came up with the idea of Self Pub Fest, which then became a full-time job in itself. It's evened things out now. But I think it's your brain can only hold so much, and I write things down because I have a bad memory. So if I don't want to forget something, I will write it all down. But I think you can have too much overload. But can it be if you're working on so much? I mean, Heather, you're right in the process of writing a crime series.
Yeah.
Your
Two crime series.
Fifth book, wasn't it? This
Fifth book
series,
in the Pro series, yeah.
And in your brain, you've got the idea of this 600,000 word.
Yeah.
Are you pretty good at going, oh well, I'll remember this one, but in the meantime, I'm going to carry on with this one? Or
Yes.
you have to, yeah.
I mean, I'm halfway through 2 books at the moment, and they've both got to be finished by the end of the year. So I'm having to timetable really quite tightly because the Crow one has to be finished first. And I'm hoping that the Quinn second novel will be ready for publication by December.
And is this
so? It's a pretty tight schedule that I'm on at the moment with both of those.
And is this a self-imposed deadline or publisher's deadline?
It's a self-imposed deadline,
okay.
Partly, but also it's a case of momentum when you're writing a series. If there's a huge gap between, one book and the next book, then your followers lose interest quite quickly. So you need to have one. At least once a year, you need to have one out, if not more.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I did get, one of the sources of stress when I did have a traditional publisher. They wanted a book every 6 months, and I thought, okay, I'll try it, but I'm not quite sure if this is going to work. And for me, that didn't work.
No.
And I lost the enjoyment of it by the time I was making a start on book 4. I thought, this is just too quick, and I'm not doing it to the standard that I would want to do it to, because they're just being, dished out.
You're a machine, yes.
I'm a machine, and I did feel like a hamster in a wheel for quite a while. And so I decided, no, I didn't want to go down that route. And I'm much happier now that I'm just going at my own pace, even though it's still quite quick.
Sure. Yeah, I know of some authors who'll put up a, what's it called, where you pre-order. They're in the process still of writing the book, but they'll put a pre-order up for 6 months' time, and that's their deadline. And it's not just that they've given themselves a deadline, but people are ordering the book that is still in the process of being written, which is fine if it works for you, I think. But and Amazon doesn't like the fact that if you push, I think you're allowed to push a pre-order once, and then they don't like it.
Right. Then they don't like it. yeah.
Try to push it again. Yes.
I don't think it's something I would want to do,
No.
because I want to be absolutely sure that the book is the best book that I can possibly make it.
No.
And there's really no deadline for that. It's ready when it's ready.
Plus, also life happens. You know, you might have a
Yeah,
major event going on that then means you can't write for a month or something.
exactly.
So there we go. Beth, final word. For you, what is your? I know we sort of covered this at the beginning, but we have had this conversation. What do you find? What do you think is the best thing about writing for you? I know you said about your characters, but about being a writer, being in the fraternity that is.
Yes, I think from the actual writing process, I mentioned at the beginning the sort of imaginary friends, um, and as you know, I mean, I choose my characters from history, and they are by and large inspired by real people, but I'm bringing them into a situation where they are no longer who they are in history, but they're somebody that I'm working with, if you like. Um, and one of the reasons I I turned to creative writing after a long career in textbooks, um, I found that I had sudden hearing loss. So when that happened, I mean, social situations were so stressful. I've now got hearing aids that make it just about workable. But despite the fact that my diary seems to be full of going out to lunch with people, um, I do find social situations very exhausting because I'm having to concentrate so hard, lip read, etc., etc. And you know, with a book, you can have creative scenarios. You can have conversations with really interesting people, and you don't have to think about I can't hear them or I'm getting a headache. You can just forget a lot of life's everyday challenges.
Mm. SJ, Sarah, what do you think is the best thing for you about being a writer and being in the fraternity that is the publishing industry?
Oh, crikey, there.
Big question. Because you go
Yeah,
to say you've got, I mean, you meet a lot of wannabe writers and help
yeah.
them develop, and you meet a lot of experts and peers as well,
Yeah.
don't you, at festivals and.
Well, I run a couple of community groups as well. One of them's coming up in a few weeks. It's Writers of Ethics, which is supported by the Society of Authors. So within that group, which is run quarterly, so we don't get to see each other very often. But yeah, there's people that come along to that want to start writing, and there's people that have been published for years. So there's a quite a range. It's fiction and non-fiction, poetry, all kinds. So seeing friends and seeing other writers, I think that's probably a big deal. I didn't actually mention that earlier, but I have got it written on my notebook. And you said about notebooks earlier. I've got millions of the things, but I do a lot of writing by hand. Yeah, I think seeing writers is probably that community, that writing community, when it works nicely, is probably one of our biggest tools in our toolbox for well-being, I would think. Because you're all going to talk about writing, you all got different aspects to bring to it, different points of view, different circumstances, different influences. And so when you bring them together and you support each other, that's probably the biggest deal, really.
Yeah, I've noticed because you're on Threads, and so the notifications when you mention about these panels that you're in, how supportive I think other writers. You know, we can vent on social media. A lot of people, and I'm in various groups on Facebook, including submission groups. So they've got an agent, they've sent their work out, and they're always kind of, how long does it take to get a commissioning editor to come back to me, or they come back and said this, and what do you think? And I sort of compare us to learner drivers. We've all started at the beginning. We didn't know how to drive a car. We've learned how to hone our craft. And we're still learning. You go out and you're driving, even if you've been driving like me for 30 years, 40 years, you're still, every day we learn about something, don't we, regardless of what we're, of life.
And actually the industry has changed an awful lot in the last 15 years, last 20 years maybe. So we've had to relearn a lot of things. Publishing's changed an awful lot, so we've had to relearn a lot of what the established practices were then, now. So yeah.
So Heather, you've gone from traditional publishing to self-publishing your crime novels. How have you found that? Because now you obviously had somebody to help you with marketing, and now you're going it alone in theory. How have you found that process? Challenge, but because you had the background, you know what you're doing.
Challenging, very challenging. I think because I'm not a self-promoter, and I think a lot of writers aren't. There's nothing worse than standing up and saying, "This is me, and I've done this," and it's just not me at all. And initially, the main reason I wanted a publisher was for that, because I wanted somebody to do marketing and I wanted somebody to do editing, because as a self-published author, I can't afford an editor, and it takes me 6 months to save up for somebody to do a decent book cover for me and all the rest of it. If you've got a publisher, here's your cover, and here's your editor, and here is your advertising promotional material. But even then, I discovered very quickly on the steep learning curve that having a publisher meant that you got your publicity and your marketing for a week.
Right.
And then they moved on to the next book. So you were still left learning. So it's been a learning curve, promoting myself, getting to grips with how to advertise and how to promote. And I'm still learning. It's been a year and a half now since the first
that's not long, considering you're on book 5 now. I know you've got 2 series, but that's not long.
That's right. Well, the first 3 were published traditionally,
right,
and I got the rights back, and the publisher was very kind and let me have all of their material and the covers and everything else.
Great.
And said that's fine, you can just go ahead and republish them exactly as they were, but with a different publisher name. So that was really good of them. So it's just the last couple of books that I've had to really work at. And I think it's good though to delve into all of these things, and as a writer to know that side of the business as well as you can. Because it's very helpful.
I think there are fors and against, because obviously being self-published, we can say how much we charge, what the blurb is, and so on. We've got total control, but there is nobody else out there apart from Sarah shouting about on threads. It's kind of, there are so many people going, I have a new book out, please go and buy my book, and it's really hard. And I think
I'm lucky that I'm a member of a writing group, all of whom are published, and we have our own collective press that we all work on together. So, and that's made a huge difference, and I think it gives all of us confidence, and we've got each other's backs, and we're helping out with all the nuts and bolts of publishing together, and that really helps.
Is Helen A.A. Abbott in your group, presumably, because she's Bristol?
She's not, but she works closely with us.
Okay, because she and I have known her for quite a few years, She and I'm probably one of the most recent members of New Street Authors, and they're in Birmingham. So we're Helen and I are virtual members on Zoom, and they're exactly the same. And I think Sarah mentioned, one of you mentioned Society of Authors.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have a local South Buckinghamshire group, which is great because we can bounce off ideas. New Street Authors is kind of one step further, where they go to events together. They're all in Birmingham, sort of Birmingham area, so it's easier.
Awesome.
And they'll have stalls, and they'll pay for a joint stall if they haven't got many books.
So that's what we do in Bristol. We've got Malago Press, and various members will go to book fairs and will go to events and give talks all in the Bristol area. And Helen's very much involved with that, even though she's not officially part of the group.
Right. Yeah, I think it very much is it's a collab. I don't know any industry quite like it, where we are, we're not competitors. In theory, if somebody's only got the budget to buy one book, we're the kind of nice people who go, well, I don't write anything that sounds like what you're after, but I know somebody who does. And so you're almost sending them off to the competition, when you know actually that they wouldn't. You could try to sell one of your books to them, but it's not quite what they're looking for. But you know somebody who'll suit them to a T, as this cliche goes, as the saying goes. And I think it's a wonderful industry to be in.
Absolutely.
So this has been quite therapeutic. Beth, tell us about your sort of winding down now. Your next project, because you're doing the follow-up to Heroes and Traitors, are you now?
That's right, yes. I'm doing the sequel, which is called Power and Puppetry. So the main characters continue. Some of the old characters, but new ones coming in as well. And once again, lots of political intrigue. People thinking they've got power when actually they're a puppet. So far so good.
Sorry, Miss, what era are you covering?
It's the 17th century, so the Heroes and Traitors was the aftermath of a civil war, loosely based on the English Civil War. And the main activity in the sequel switches to another country. And in this scenario, it's really based on some of the changes of power in Russia in the 17th century. Lots of it inspired by real events. Virtually every event has its roots in research, but of course I play with it, and sometimes the outcomes are different.
Right, that's great. I was going to ask another question. My phone's just beeped. It's put me off. Sarah, you're working. You do non-fiction, fiction, and ghostwriting. Do you have a favourite kind of thing? You like mixing things? Because Heather, you work on two things at once, which I tend to do. I have at least two projects on the go. SJ, do you work on different things? I guess it depends on your deadline.
I've been working, to get rid of all of the events, all of the gigs that I'm doing for other people, and just focus on the book. The two books that I'm focusing on this year are the book one of, I'm looking up there because that's where it's all written down, book one of a series, which is a kind of a passion project, because I'm it's multi-genre. I'm incorporating all of the stories that I've ever written in my entire career that never found the light of day, but they are all fantastic, and I don't want to leave them alone because they're all amazing and I love them, and they're a big part of my learning. So I'm putting those into a series called the Danbury Road series, because I was born in a place called Danbury Down. Okay. I didn't want to use that, so Danbury Road series. And so that's book one, which I did in January, that needs developing. And A Parting Gift, which is the book that I've got to now edit. So that's the two big projects that I'm focusing on. I would love one of them to come out before the year's out, but in case they don't, I'm going to be keeping my run of, in 2020 I graduated with a degree. 2021 through last year, I brought out a book every year, and I would love to continue that momentum, because all my other stuff, there was a big gap, and there was loads of books being published, there was a big gap, but I would like to continue that. Now I've got a short story that's in an anthology that's coming out. I believe the publisher said it was November, in time for Christmas. So if all else fails, at least that will be out this year. So that's kind of my get out clause, if you like. But it would be wonderful if I could get A Parting Gift out, because I think it's a lovely story. Others might not, but I'm in love with it. I love the story. It's such a heartbreaking story. And I think it's got legs, big legs, long legs, scary legs.
Well, speaking of which, about a month ago, I came up with the idea for a 60-book series. All about different characters, in a fictional place called Wenham, which is an homage. And I do have the chap who lives in the manor is Mr. Wenham Jones, as an homage to our late friend, Jane Wenham Jones. And so I've got my work cut out for those so I've created all my characters. I've got little biographies for them all, and I've got different places, and I've when I was in Spain last week, I started one with a character who is moved from Wenham to Spain, so with the Andalusian hills as we had as our backdrop, and so yes, so I think we're all looks wonderfully rosy, that we're all very sane despite everything that life throws at us, and we're all incredibly busy. So I am very grateful to Heather and Sarah and Beth for joining me this evening. Your Rafa has been exceptionally, unless he did disappear. Your dog Heather.
He's at my feet.
Being good. You've been very good. No, it's brilliant. We always love a dog. Next time I'll have mine, because we were away and we had a lady look after our house. All the stuff from the spare room where she was staying is under here in my office, which is why the dog isn't, because normally his bed's underneath the table. So he didn't join me. He's scratching at the door earlier on. So there we go. So thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for inviting us.
Download. You're very welcome. So this will download shortly and be on YouTube this evening. So I'll email you with the link. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you all. It's lovely to see you, Heather.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.